Okay, then welcome to our session, Turning Ideas into Value. We are happy to see that much already people here. We're not that, it's not normal that we usually have that much people in our sessions, but we'll get the best out of this 45 minutes. My name is Peter Studer. I am the head of communications at the EP. It stands for Institute for Intellectual Property here in Bern. Intellectual property will also be the subject for the coming 45 minutes. And don't you worry, there will be no test afterwards. The goal today is basically awareness raising for the beautiful and fascinating topic of intellectual property. So to start with, maybe I have two questions for you. So does anyone in this room, or has anyone in this room, what I do not hope, never heard of intellectual property? Cool. And second question, does anyone in this room already have an intellectual property right in his portfolio or whatever? Feel free to. Okay. I will come back to that question. Voila. What you can see here is not a overpriced artwork by a misunderstood artist. This is a drawing of my daughter Helena. She drew it, I think, when she was 9. Now she's 12. And so back to my question. I'm pretty sure that everyone of you or everyone in this room already or drew also drawings in his childhood. So, and as you drew pictures in your childhood, you are already a proud owner of a copyright, which incidentally will only expire after 70 years after you are dead. I know that's a bit ironic or a bit sarcastic, but as a first introduction into copyright and intellectual property. By the way, that drawing hangs in my office, which brings us to the next slide, which is my office in this handsome building. It's a nice 20-minute walk from here. This direction. This direction, genau. So, and then what are we doing at the Institute? I invite you to read this phrase, the first, if you want, the first half of our mission statement. So we're dealing basically with patent, design, trademark protection, indications of source, and copyright. So this is really in a nutshell now. So we have 5 branches of disciplines of intellectual property, which is trademarks, which is patents, which is design you can protect. You have a copyright, or you have the indications of sources as made in Switzerland, for example. It's basically the 5 disciplines we have. Then the watch is actually a good example to go a little bit deeper into it. We have, or you can see all the disciplines we have on a watch, basically, beginning with the trademark. And if you want to, let's say, use a meta term or a buzzword, let's say, for trademark, it would be probably identification, something that identifies your product. Then second, you have patents in the clockwork. Let's say this meta word would be technology. Then the design as a shape you can also protect. Then maybe for your watch you have maybe a product booklet, or you have maybe a song in a commercial, which are protected by copyright. And last but not least, you have here, you can read here, Swiss made, which is the origin, the indication of source, which is always already also protected or regulated, maybe more in this case. Good, so this is the second part of our mission statement. I read you, also invite you to read that. So maybe you ask yourself, why is this so important? Why is he making such a big deal out of it? And this is the answer. Because you probably know that Switzerland is a country without natural resources, without any raw materials. It's just this. There are some exceptions, of course, in a different shape, another place, which can be really attractive. So it's important for a country like Switzerland, as also for many other countries, to have a strong framework, a strong, reliable framework that allows us, and that's also the main topic for today, that allows us to turn ideas into value. And how are we doing that? So along with other key pillars of that framework, we have intellectual property as a key condition in this reliable and strong framework. Intellectual property allows you to protect your idea, your innovation, so it becomes a strategischer asset and advantage. And this is our short and simple message for you today. Start thinking about IP early on. Wherever you are, with your startup, with your innovation, with your ideas, just we're not saying like, yeah, go there, protect your mark or get a trademark or whatever. Just start to think early about IP. That's important. So further information you can find on our website. There are always also the pocket guides you can take at the end of this presentation as a giveaway. Go there, have a look, and see what's all about intellectual property. So, and now, after this short, really short, in a nutshell introduction, I'm happy to pass things on to Matthias Krech, our IP trainer and expert in the subject.
So also from my side, warm welcome. I'd like to go a bit more into detail, and I promise you, after these now 35 minutes, you will be better than Apple and Ferrari, at least in a very small kind of business branch. I will show you some examples, what happened in the past in the market. That is also important for startups. When you entered, some were still using their smartphones. Pretty sure everybody did today. How did you unlock your smartphone? What have you done? Swiping motion, correct. Is somebody in here who can remember before the first smartphones came to market? How did we unlock those handies? Yes, we typed in some codes. What do you like more? Every time typing in codes or swiping motion? Swiping motion, yeah. So we have a technical solution for a technical problem. How are we unlocking our smartphone? And now somebody, a clever guy, came up with a completely new idea and transformed it into a technical solution. So we are not typing in any codes anymore. We don't have to remember any codes. No, we simply use our finger. By a swiping motion, we can use our smartphone. Genius idea. So we would like to protect it, right? Because this is value. In today's world, how many smartphones are unlocked by a swiping motion? All of them. So we have an incredible market. Imagine, you could be the only one providing this technical solution to the whole world. And everybody who wants to use your technical solution would have to pay you, for example, a licensing fee, because you have a monopoly right for this technical solution. We are talking about billions of income. Now, you've got an employee that is presenting this technical solution at the public. Before you have applied for a patent, because when we are talking about a technical solution, we are talking about a monopoly right that's called patents. And the bad thing about patents is, whenever you made something public before you have applied for your patent, there is no monopoly right anymore. You as an inventor, you have ruined the possibility of your patent. What would you do with such an employee if they would ruin you such an opportunity? Who'd like to answer? Who dares to answer this question? Nobody? What would you do? Ask differently. Who would fire this employee? He or she just made you lose billions. Nobody? Oh, you are very kind. Because you would have fired Steve Jobs. Mr. Steve Jobs was presenting the swiping motion before Apple applied for the patent. What did the clever competitors? Well, they checked 2 dates. We all know these presentations on YouTube, Cupertino, Mr. Steve Jobs, the proud inventor, showing to the whole world what they are doing. Unfortunately, there was nobody within this big company telling their boss, shut up. We haven't protected yet this swiping motion as a patent. So the clever competitors went to court telling the judges, look, you have to compare 2 dates. When was Mr. Steve Jobs presenting it for the first time? When did Apple apply for the patent? This patent isn't new anymore. End of discussion for any licensing fees. Terrible mistake. As a startup, you are also creating values. And please think about protecting those values before you go public. You can do better than Steve Jobs. How can this happen? Well, for the whole world, the saying is publish and perish. But not for the US. In the US, you get a grace period of 1 year. There you can go public, telling what you're doing, and you get an additional 1 year to apply for the patent. But for the rest of the world, once you are making your innovation public, it's over with the patent. There is a question, please. We need, yeah, but they need it for the recording.
Short question. What counts as going public? What is public?
Very good question. Everything by any means that has been public. So, talking about your invention, putting your invention on your website, as long as those that are, for example, within this room, haven't signed an NDA, a so-called non-disclosure agreement. Then we are closing the circle again. And then you can present your innovation. For example, if you are talking to investors, if the investors have signed an NDA, you are open to present your innovation because They are obliged to keep it secret what you are telling them. But don't go to YouTube first. Then it's over. And even worse, every patent is published. So not just the competitors not paying you anything anymore. No, they also can read how it works. So thanks a lot for the inspiration. We don't need to invest anymore. We can read how it works. So please consider, when we are talking about technical solutions, every employee has to be conscious about the fact that he or she can't speak about the innovations Friday evening with their best friends in the pub, what they were doing. They have to be conscious about this fact. Only after you have applied for the patent, then it might work. Do we have any Ferraristi among us? Ferrari fans? Do you remember the year of this car? Okay, obviously it's a Ferrari. This Ferrari was built in 2011 under the name, they wanted to go start the season under the notion F150, F for Ferrari as always, 150, because in the year 2011, Italy celebrated its 130th birthday of the reunion of the now North and South part. So very nice idea by the marketing guys. Who is fond of cars? What do you think? What happened here?
Ford Motor Corporation objected.
Thanks a lot. Yes, there are some other guys on the market yet. Building cars. And not just a simple company. No, it's Ford building a car since 1975 called F150, still on the market, still producing this car, and they are selling it hugely. They weren't amused at all. Their trademark is used by another company. Why should we pay any fees if we wouldn't protect our monopoly rights? So they sent Ferrari a nice letter telling them to stop. Under this notion, you will not go to the market, you won't start the season. Now let's have a look. When did this happen? 10th February 2011. Do you know when the Formula One season starts, normally? No? A bit. At the days, it was also mid and end of March. So we can say, transposition to a startup, we are 1 month before we go to the market. And now a big competitor like Ford, that has more than enough money to go to court, tells you, not this way. Under this term, no product will be sold. Oops, Houston, we've got a problem. So what happened? Well, Ferrari changed its name to Ferrari 150th Italia. Ford let them live with that. Okay, we go on. Now let's consider a bit the costs. You are a company on a worldwide level, rebranding and reapplying for a trademark, let's say about $100,000. Okay, sell another car, and the costs are covered. Really? Let's make a small calculation. How are you gaining money as a Formula One company? Apart from TV, apart from prize money, apart from sponsorship. There is one big pillar. You go in the right direction, yes. We've now the championships, ice hockey championships in Switzerland. What are the people wearing? Yes. Huge factor. Formula One for a Formula One company. What is written on all the T-shirts, sweatshirts, caps, I don't know what, umbrellas, 1 month before the season starts? Obviously, F150. What are you doing with all these T-shirts, sweatshirts, etc.? Throw it away. Imagine you are responsible for this marketing. You have to explain this to your boss. What would be the reaction of your boss? First of all, the question, how could this happen? Well, yeah, you know, we are quite big and we thought that we simply can go on. No, that's not the way how it works. Make researches. You have to check that you are not infringing third parties' rights. And be aware, national offices won't tell you when you are applying, for example, for your trademark, when you are applying for your design, for your patent. Oops, be aware, there's a competitor yet on the market. That's your homework. You have to do this. Here, the costs were immense. As a startup, it might not cost that much, but it might be more harmful for you, because if you can't sell your product on the market, your magazines are full. Oops, you're in way more trouble than Ferrari. Consider it's your duty to check. Maybe you think, well, this IP stuff is just costly. I spare myself with all these questions. I'm not interested into IP. Fine. We are not here to sell you any patents, trademarks, or design rights. This is your decision. Make a conscious decision about the use or the non-use of IP. But be aware, just because you decided for yourself, I don't need any IP for myself, at least you have to check what others did. Your competitors are confronted with the very same questions. And they may have come up to a different kind of decision. They may have asked monopoly rights. And at least you have to check that you're not infringing third parties' rights. So IP still follows your innovation process, at least for making sure that you're not getting into trouble with third parties. What can we do when we acquired intellectual property rights? Well, first of all, this is mentioned almost every time. We can go against third parties, against those imitators. That's one example. Again, hopefully nobody is sitting here coming from the Apple company. But they thought that, yeah, we are big enough, we can just take over whatever is nice, whatever exists on the market. So they took over the design of the Swiss railway clock for an app. fortunately, the Swiss railway figured this out, and they told Apple, hey, we are not amused at all. You haven't asked us. You can't simply take over what we did in the past. So they went against Apple. It was quite hard to figure out how much Apple had to pay. Also, I've never figured out exactly based on which intellectual property law or right they based their claims. But I could read that Apple had to pay 20 million Swiss francs. Nice income just for a picture of an app. Here again, if you know that third parties created some value, you can't simply take it over. Talk to them. Make licensing fees. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been that expensive. But also be aware, this again is your homework. A national office will not tell you, check our national register maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. There will be a registration that might be interesting for you. No, you have to check the market. You have to check the registers. That nobody is copying you. This was a Swiss startup. They created a technology to transfer human movements of the human face into a digital world. Their technique was used in Star Wars films, and that was how Apple got interested into this team. And they bought this team. Now, let's have a look what this team did. They used intellectual property from the very beginning as a strategic resource. They were conscious about the fact that for others, their technology might be interesting, but they are so small, they can't defend themselves against the big ones in the market. This is the life cycle of this FaceShift team. They incorporated in 2012, gained some prices, so really strong, good idea, turned into a technical solution. And now the interesting thing is, when did they apply for their patent? They were incorporated in 2012. Their patent was applied in December 2011, even before they incorporated the company. So this shows this team was conscious about the fact that their value is based in intellectual property. For them, it was more important to get the patent applied than the company incorporated. And I'm pretty sure Apple didn't pay because these were some handsome guys. They paid for the patent. So IP can be used as a value, as an exit strategy, or creating licensing fees. An IP can also be used as a source of information. That is something that quite often gets forgotten, unfortunately. We have a technical problem. When an airplane is landing, tires have to rotate because the friction would be too high if the tire would have to accelerate from 0 to about 300 kilometers per hour while landing. The problem is, the risk is that the tire would explode because the friction would be too high. So tires have to rotate, and in the past, there was an electromotor behind each and every tire. So to let the tire start to rotate. Now, a British airplane constructor asked their engineers, look, electromotors are not very fancy. They are heavy. And that's the last thing we want in airplane construction, weight. Please find us a different solution so that we can get rid of these electromotors. And I don't know how long it took these engineers to figure out a genius, very simple solution. They figured out that if we have air pockets at included in these tires, when the plane is landing and the tires get exposed to the airflow, this airflow can catch within these air pockets, so the tires start to rotate on their own. We simply have to provide air pockets within these tires. That's all. Genius, very simple. They got rid of all these electromotors. So they asked a patent for it. Just writing a patent. I once asked the patent attorney here in Bern about the costs. He told me, if we are talking about a simple solution, then we start at about 5,000 Swiss francs. The more complicated a technical solution is, the more money we have to ask. That's one part of the costs. Then you have to the application fees, which won't be that much. And depending in all the countries you would like to have the protection for, you need to integrate also translation costs. For example, if you want to have a patent also protected in Japan or China, where we have special languages, the cost might explode. So when they applied for this patent, the patent expert figured out, well, nice idea. But we have seen this before. Air pockets around the tire. Unfortunately, presented 1931. I've asked my colleagues working as patent experts, confronted with this technical problem, how long would it have been taken you to figure out this patent of 1931? A friend of mine who is also working as an IP trainer, he told me, look, I'm a physician, I'm not in mechanics. For me, it would have taken me 1 hour. Our friends working for the mechanics, 15 minutes. Imagine the costs here. If you would have asked for a patent research, 15 minutes by an expert. And you would have known what to do. And these patent experts are not that expensive as writing down a patent. Make sure. We are talking here, as said it before, each and every patent will be published. So we are talking about more today, in today's world, we are talking about more than 120 million documents free to use. An incredible amount of knowledge just there for you to use. You simply have to think about it when you are within the innovation process. Check what others did in the past. You may use it as an inspiration, or just to not to invest into something that others have done before, spending money for something that has been done before. Because this is really reinventing the wheel, this really means you are throwing out your money out of the window. And as a startup, I know you don't have that money at your disposal just to throw it out of the window. Use this knowledge by third parties. It's there for free. You would simply have to be an efficient researcher. And how do you get an efficient researcher? Well, we are offering you some lectures. We have the so-called IP Academy, where we are also showing you how to search efficiently on these public patent databases. Also, if you would like to have more information about patents, about design right, about trademark rights, use these workshops. Mainly they are for free. It's about 2 hours, offered in 4 different languages, offered almost every month, at least in German and in English, twice every month. Feel free to subscribe, and I would love to see 1 or 2 of you in these lectures, or when my colleagues are offering it. Get yourself this information. Only the lecture to search efficiently on the databases, there we are asking a small fee, but the rest is for free. With that, I would like to end here, but I would offer you the possibility to ask questions. We've got another 5 minutes.
Thank you. Just short question. I was hoping for a workshop where the term AI is not mentioned. Sorry, I spoiled that. But what is the impact of cloud technology and AI in the context of IP protection? Apart from the fact that my storage is not within my house on my personal hard disk no more.
Very good question. And the short answer is, I don't know yet. Because we are lacking decisions by courts, at least decisions at the highest level. We are lacking specific rights. So it's not even yet clear which right should be applied for. Mainly we are talking about software. So we are talking about copyright protection. But with software and with copyright protection are linked an awful lot of still open questions. For example, which prompts are you using? Quite often, these are literary works, and for literary works, they are protected 70 years after the death of the author. So you would have to ask permission to use the item that you are using to feed the AI. Whether you would have to pay for it or whether this is fair use, we don't know yet. There are 2 opinions within the market. Some say yes, if still there is copyright linked with the prompt, somebody would have to pay. Somebody. Another question, who would have to pay? Or maybe it is fair use and then you are allowed to do. Next question linked with AI, what happens with the output? Who can ask protection? According to copyright protection in today's world, you get a copyright for an expression by a human being who is creating the content. It's a machine. But the machine wouldn't work without the software that somebody wrote down. So this is an expression of a human being. But not directly when we are talking about the output. Another open question, whether the output can generate some rights, whatever they will be. And again, the question, could we get some monopoly rights on this output? Who would have to pay? An awful lot of questions linked with AI that so far are not yet solved. At the IPI, we say we don't exclude that there might be linked some rights with also the output if you could prove that the machine is exactly doing what you want. For example, by the assessment of the prompts, and that you can prove that the machine is always doing the same thing what you want. We wouldn't exclude that then we could talk about copyright protection in the future, but so far we don't know. That's just the opinion within the IPI. But whether you can prove it or not, I don't know. I've never tried. So sorry for that I can't provide you with a specific answer. This is a huge question in today's world. And as always, law is always, when it comes to AI, way far behind what's going on in the market. We have to deal with this question. And in my opinion, we have to deal with it in a shorter amount of time than what we are using, what is done in today's world. But that's just how the process goes on. Sorry. Thanks a lot. Another question, or yeah? Well, one last question, we've still got time. Please.
Well, it's following the question you've been asked before. Since there's a lot of doubts in what will happen because of AI and software and with ideas and IPs, would you recommend to file a patent, even though we don't know what it might become because of AI, if it's linked to AI or software, or wait that decisions start to be made?
For me as a collaborator of the IPI, that's yet a dangerous question because I'm not allowed to advise. I can only provide you with information. So far, when we are talking about technical solutions and AI, yet there is the question whether AI somehow is linked with a technical effect, because you can only apply for patents if we have some technicity within. So we are talking, for example, about computer implemented software, so software can be integrated into a patent. The software as such still is protected by copyright. But if the software has a technical effect, for example, steering an arm of a robot, you might get also a patent for this technical effect, and because the machine is only working by using software, you can integrate the software not as such, but the software aspect into a patent. When it comes to AI, I can't see yet a technicity within this whole process, but that's another question that has to be solved by our courts, by those writing rights, whether maybe we need another IP right, I don't know. Maybe it is dealt by, I don't know the word in English, but this is now, in Switzerland, it's the question of the Leistungsschutz. So mainly it came up with the question of the use of snippets by these searching machines, and journalists want to participate because it's their text, it's their copyright, and we are dealing now with this question with an additional law, you could say, and maybe we are integrating also AI within this Leistungsschutz, but I don't know yet. We have to wait. But be aware, when we are talking about patents, there has to be some technicity linked with it. And whether you better apply or you better keep it secret, that's a very important strategic question you would have to deal this question with an attorney. The IPI is offering you an IP advisory network. There is a list on our website with participating attorneys where you get 45 minutes of advice for free. So for 45 minutes, you can talk to these attorneys. Simply call them and ask them to pass by, present your innovation, and ask them what is best for you, what they think is best for you. You can use this list. So I think we are all hungry. So thanks a lot for your participation. I hope you could profit a little bit. Otherwise, we have a booth down there, so you can all also come to us afterwards and ask specific questions. As I said, I'm not allowed to advise. So thanks a lot and have a nice lunch.